Hey everybody, welcome to Movie Master, where we rank, review, trailer react, and talk about movies, TV shows, and video games. So, without further ado, yeah, and that is what the intro will look like from now on. And yes, I am keeping the glasses from now on. These are kind of cool, and I like it. I do it at the start of my video so it doesn't look weird when my eyes have a weird shift. Like that way, if I make a weird look, I at least have glasses on, and not make my entire face look stupid. But nonetheless, today I'm going to be ranking all 7 Transformers movies. And no, the Rise of the Beast movie has not yet come out. That is coming out next year, and my mom's going to go take me to see that. And I'm very, very excited to go see that. But this is a re-ranking of my original video. I feel like doing a re-ranking because I do not feel like I put all my points across. Now, if you want, I will. Now, there is a way I will probably do another updated version where I just do the 6 films, including this one. I will not be including the 1986 movie. I have not seen. I will not be including the 1986 Transformers movie. I have not seen it. I've only seen clips. I can't rank or decide a movie if I haven't properly seen it. I only did that once, but I haven't really done it again because I want to rank a movie if I've seen it properly. I can't just judge it if you think I need to judge it by seeing if I've seen nearly all the clips of the film, like a bunch of clips that nearly just sum up the entire movie. Then I don't mind seeing it. So I think no. This will include a very different movie of mine, and I'm hoping that people enjoy it. And remember, this is my ranking. You don't have to agree with anything I say. This is just my opinion. So anything I say, if your favorite Transformers movie is on the bottom, or if your favorite one's on the top or in the middle, or not, or the one you really like isn't even on this list, yeah, there with that. Oh yeah, and spoilers, but pretty much at this point, there's really no reason to spoil it unless you're talking about Bumblebee. Then yeah, that movie came out recently, but besides that, yeah, the first 5, yeah, they're pretty old, and I was born when the first one came out, so you guys had a long time to see them. But yeah, in that case, let's start off at number 7 with Transformers 4: Age of Extinction. This is not my favorite movie. If you've seen my channel, you know it's become if you've seen the two-part video earlier, there is a two-part video describing, divulging why I dislike that. For more extensive reasons, there will be a more extensive rant, I should say, about my honest opinion on the film. This film is much more different from the previous films. It's very different from the 3 that came before it in look, feel, and design. Not only number 1 is Shia LaBeouf now exited the franchise because he was playing Sam Witwicky for the first 3. He is now left, so he is no longer the main lead. So Mark Wahlberg takes his place. It was a hard shift for me because I had to go through a lot of different shifts with my favorite characters. Spider-Man was rebooted with a new character that I wasn't really on board with, and Transformers got a soft reboot with the 4th film. Although, to be true, there are some highlights. Number 1, yeah, they did give the characters more personality. While Stephen Shane was a complete douche, he got more personality. The characters had much more personality. Except for T.J. Miller. He was just a complete idiot. But all the characters got more personality. Even for the short time Ratchet was on screen, he had more of an open personality. I like how they gave the Autobots each individual personalities. And to be admitted, the designs for the new characters are kind of cool. I like Hound's design. It's dope. It's a really cool army look. I like Drift's ninja design. I liked Crosshair. I'm in the middle of Crosshair's design. I did not like Bumblebee's, and I don't mind Optimus's knight for him. It's different for me because I've been so used to the one he had in the original 3 films. That's weird seeing him go to a different vehicle mode. So yeah, and not give us a canon reason. So yeah, it's overall pretty sad, but it was still nonetheless a movie. I don't like it at all. It's a very different movie, and the Dinobots are very underused characters in this entire movie. We barely even see them. They're like the entire promotional art is based on these characters, and they barely even appear in the film. So what's the point of promoting these characters if they barely even appear? So yeah. This film is different from the other ones, but yeah, it's the first movie where it starts to really overly contradict the entire universe. Even though the second and third movie did make the story convoluted, they found a way to try and tie it up into a knot. The third movie made it convoluted, but they tried to find a way to tie the knots up. Yeah, there is a way you can figure that out, and I will one day make a timeline where I exclude the 4th and 5th, but only keep the first 3 movies and the comics around it, but make an entire timeline around the first 3 films, get the tie-in games that were made for them, and the comics that were based around the 3 main films. Because, well, when the 4th and 5th came out, it kind of pushed the comics out of canon. Because the IDW comics for Transformers were actually canon to the films. All the comics they made for the first, second, and third film were all canon. But when the fourth film came out, and the fifth film, especially when the fifth film came around, a lot of them were pushed out of or pushed to not be canon. This has often happened before. But nonetheless, this is my least favorite movie. I've spent my entire life disliking this movie, and the last time I watched it was about 3 or 4 years ago. This proves my entire desire to not want to see this movie. Every time I try to think about watching it, I just see the images of something that I really don't want to watch. So I'd rather watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that's my least favorite Spider-Man movie. But I'd rather watch that because of the charming acting of Andrew Garfield. And because he's Spider-Man. He's been hard to hate. Number 6. Transformers The Last Knight. This movie is very different. It took things way differently than the other 4 films. It was different from even its predecessor. It very declined in quality. Overall, the Transformers films, except for Bumblebee, declined in quality the more that came out. The first film was pretty good. It has juvenile humor. It's a bit offensive, but it's good. It's decent. The second film commits a lot of atrocious, very not that good acts. It's very, very, very offensive in some of the areas it is. It's very sexist. It's very, very stupid, disturbing. It's for those really big teen boys. This would have been perfect for teen boys back in 2009. Transformers 3, it declined a bit more quality, but they toned down the offensiveness and juvenile humor, and they tried to focus more on a story-based area. It did feel like the third film was trying to focus more on a story rather than big fat explosions. But sadly, Michael Bay leaked through like a drink getting spilled onto your clothes. And yeah. The fourth one basically declined a lot of the movie's quality, and the fifth film just nailed this in the coffin. This is practically what kind of killed the Michael Bay films, and yeah. Any hopes of reviving it, the only hope I like is that they just cut off the fourth and fifth and keep the first 3, and then make stories around those 3 films. Although there are probably big fat fanboys who come from those 2 films that want to see what happened to them. These films commit a lot of timeline continuity errors, and the fifth film is the most famous one for creating a convoluted story. And sadly, that's the reason they have to reboot. Start fresh. You don't have to be with a big fat convoluted world of arcs and characters. Overall, had this film decided to instead try and tie up the plot holes and make retcons that would have been able to make a very less convoluted timeline, this could have been a good film. This film looked like deep down it was trying to impress fans of the first 3 films and impress fans of the fourth film, and get new fans in. But making a story that is as convoluted as hell and incomprehensible is not the way you get new fans. That's not how you get new fans. There are certain like in the MCU, there are certain movies you can't just start randomly off point at. You can't start a marathon in Avengers Endgame. You can't become a fan in Endgame, in my opinion. If you become a fan of Marvel at the start of Endgame, no, that's not a good idea. You either become a fan of either Iron Man or of Iron Man and Avengers Endgame. One of those movies is better to become a fan around that time. Because one reason I liked it is that you slowly got to love the characters. You fell in love with the characters and their world and the arcs they went through. And by the time it got to Endgame, where they tied up all the loose knots, it felt satisfying. For somebody who watched Iron Man all the way through to Avengers Endgame, is skipping a few movies because I didn't really want to see them. But yeah. I did skip Black Panther, though. I did rewatch it out of respect for Chadwick Boseman. I had plans to not really watch it, but one day do it later on in my lifetime. But decided to out of respect of Chadwick Boseman and what he did. That. And overall, yeah. And yeah, but in my opinion, yeah, it's this kind of thing. This movie, it was so convoluted and so messed up, and overall, just really terrible doing fan service. It had the most empty fan service I've ever seen in my life. Overall, it made casual people zoom out entirely. So you couldn't get any new fans out of this. They probably did get some new fans in the form of children. They couldn't please the original trilogy fans, and they couldn't please any Age of Extinction fans. So, yeah. Even if bringing back Barricade or hinting about Sam Witwicky or bringing back a bunch of old looks for characters or something, they still won't do it. So yeah. And overall, yeah. But yeah, this movie, it's alright. I haven't watched it since it released. I will watch it again one day. But watching Lennox and seeing all these ideas about The Last Knight is really weird, because it would have been better for Sam Witwicky's character to get all this legacy and stuff like that. But yeah. It just makes the timeline really complicated, and Bumblebee, yeah, it wouldn't have been able to fit into the convoluted timeline that Michael Bay had established. So when he left, the franchise was practically impossible to try and continue without his work. So yeah, not only that, this movie made the lowest out of all the movies. It made about 400 or 500 bucks. That's how much it made. Over 400 or 500 million. That's how much it made. That's a low for the franchise, considering they've made up to $4 billion. The lowest they've had in that much money would be around the last night's money. And you don't beat the Hong, very hilarious and very tiny bit of a controversial YouTuber among many of the movie fans. He is a never seen the fourth and fifth film. I saw the fourth, fifth film in cinemas, and yes, the aspect ratio, I know what it is. It was very weird seeing the aspect ratio change so much. It does get you uninterested, and the action is messy. It takes the third and fourth, all four films bad action, and just you got action scenes where they're firing off into nowhere. People are shooting guns and it blasts off screen. And then you got big fat explosions. And then you got Mark Wahlberg's sexy abs. You got women. You got blah blah blah. And to be clarified, Vivian got a lot more to do in this movie. She was much more important to the plot, whereas normally the girls are just thrown in there for hot babes. Megan Fox, thrown in as a hot babe. Isabel Lucas, thrown in as a hot babe. Megan Fox, thrown in as a hot babe. Carly, thrown in as a hot babe. That's all that. Tessa's actress, thrown in as a hot babe. These are all just to please teen boys. And I was not a part of that group that thought them as objects. I was 3 when I saw this as a kid. No, I know. When I saw the first one, I was 3. When I saw this one, I was 10. When I saw the one before that, I was 7. But yeah, the point is that Vivian got to do a lot more in this movie. I hated Hot Rod's French accent, and Megatron looked badass. Yeah, but overall, the movie's incomprehensible. It makes no goddamn sense. It's boring, and I don't even like watching the behind the scenes. And I'm fascinated by behind the scenes footage, but it was boring. And I got bored. Like I used to be when I watched anything behind the scenes. It was boring. And it's the longest movie out of the entire franchise. It's so goddamn long. I don't want to sit for about, 2 to 3 hours. I'd rather do that for Avengers Endgame. Or the first 3 movies. You know, the movies I actually like out of these 5 movies. So yeah. But that's life. You can't get everything you want. And these movies aren't all. Yeah, it has good stuff. But overall, the redeeming qualities are very overlooked by the bad qualities. Yes, I had to turn on the light. It is getting really dark out there. But overall, yeah. This movie has confusing action, an incomprehensible plot, a convoluted story, convoluted narrative, and a very bad idea, a very empty, terrible, shitty fan service. And yeah. Overall, yeah. The action and chasing's terrible. The character, they're trying to fulfill fan service. It's terrible. All of it. The special effects all hold up to this day. I mean, it was released only about 3 to 4 years ago, and this movie was supposed to be a template for a cinematic universe. Now, yeah, that's a great idea. They've hit 5 movies. It would have been great for them, but I wish we got a better 5th movie than this big humping pile of garbage. Now, I am not discrediting anybody who likes this. Like I said, this is my opinion. If you absolutely think this movie is a masterpiece and think it should go to it's a masterpiece of a movie. Yeah. That's your pick. If you think it's a masterpiece, if you think Age of Extinction is a masterpiece, by all means, love this movie to your heart's content. I just don't like it that much. I'll watch it more than Age of Extinction. I'll watch this better than Age of Extinction. And once upon a time, this movie was higher on my list, but opinions can change. That's why it's put in this spot. Not because of what other people say anymore, it's because of what I think of it. Now, number 5, a lot of people are going to be questioning why I put it up this high, is Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen. A lot of fans of the films, and a lot of fans in general who like Transformers, hate this movie. Some people like it. There are some big major fanboys, and there are medium casual fans, and there are people who despise this with their entire being and think it's a piece of junk. I don't mind it. I watched it when I was 4 years old, and it was alright. By this point, I'd already seen the first one. I loved it, and I really loved the second one. Turns out a lot of people weren't agreeing with my terms. I do agree with what they say now. It's very inappropriate. They have the most common one I love to recount about to a lot of my friends is the enemy scrotums. Because, well, Michael Bay loves to tell us more about Transformers anatomy. Because, well, here's what you get in the movie. You get two dogs trying to have sex with each other. You get Sans mom high on weed. You get Transformer farting a parachute out of their butts. You get ball sacks on a big transformer named Devastator. You see ball sacks, and then you see Agent Simmons' butt, aka John Turturro. You see his ass. You see his butt when he strips off his pants. And then we get the sexualization of Megan Fox as a hood ornament, and Isabel Lucas another hood ornament for the teen boys to certainly get very happy by. But yeah, the action again is a bit more worse than this one. It is not as bad as the third one. I can actually tell what the hell is going on. I was gonna say it was a swear word, but better try not to F it up too much. But overall, let's see. The action looks like a bunch of metal slamming into one another. If you're watching any battle, it looks like red, blue, black metal slamming into one another. And yeah, it starts the convoluted storyline that three films and had it continued like about 5, 6, 7 films would have followed that convoluted story. This film started the convoluted storyline, and yeah. And this movie does treat a lot of characters dirty. One of the most knownly underrated characters and underused characters, and one of the most number one underused and underrated character was Jolt. Now, for those of you who may not know who Jolt is, he's a blue Transformer who transformed into a Chevrolet Eco car. He was never seen in the movies. All you may know him as is that guy, that blue Transformer who helped merge Optimus and Jetfire. I didn't even know who he was, and then I forgot who he. I wonder where he went in the third movie, though. I did get curious to wonder where he went in the third movie. I did find out what his name was and forgot about it, and never really thought about him in the third movie, and then wonder where he went. And the most famous characters that had been kicked out of the franchise was Skids and Mudflap. Skids was the green car, and Mudflap was the red one. Those two were twins, and they were very, very offensive. I may not have known what offensive things exactly say, but they apparently to a lot of people were very offensive characters, which is why Michael Bay removed them. But if you watch Dark of the Moon, the sequel that comes after this movie, they do appear in the film. This film overall, yeah, we don't get that much acting, and Megan Fox and Charlotte LaBeouf have later gone on to say they hated doing this movie. The movie made more money, and I'm surprised the franchise continued. I was happy it continued, but yeah, the second film was a downer, and I'm surprised it continued, but I was happy personally, because these are my childhood. I loved them. And this film traded out the best movie toys out of all of them. Some of them had a gimmick issue, like Megatron, like the Megatron toy and the Starscream toy. But overall, all the toys were awesome, and they introduced all kinds of cool gimmicks and the hump for the Decepticon line, the Nest line, and a bunch of different lineups of figures that sold from 2009 to 2010. And then finished selling by 2011 to prep up for the next movie. But yeah, overall this film is, I'll give it a, because if I'll give all the films a 1 so far as to have ranked them, I'll give Transformers Age of Extinction a 4 out of 10. It's alright, I like some things about it, it changes too much. Transformers 5 out of 10, it's alright, but eh. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, a 6 out of 10. It's decent, but it has a lot of issues, and yeah. But I like this one because it has Megan Fox in it. Not for the reasons you think. I don't like her as a sex object. No. I liked her as a character, Michaela. That's what I always liked about her character. She was a very unique character. And she was the more, shall we say, she was like the male. She was like the man in the relationship, where Sam was like the woman, as my mother describes it, and I would kind of agree. She was much more the stronger one, and I would have liked if we got much more better female representation in those movies. But thank Thor to Bumblebee, which is now started to put more better light on female women in the Transformers films. So yeah, thanks Travis Knight. I'm saying that in a real voice. Thank you, because god damn, I don't want another sex object. But yeah, and overall, this film's eh. It's not the best one. It's an alright one. If you want a movie where dogs have sex on top of each other, where someone stands, where you get more Sans parents and Sans mom smoking weed, a dumbass roommate who cries like a big fat baby, and robot ball sacks, and convoluted story, and big fat massive explosions, and hot babes, and big booms the size of Canada or America. I don't know how big they are. And just a big fat amount of action scenes that's like a Michael Bay mess. If you want to get that kind of action, watch this movie. You get that kind of Michael Bay action satisfactory that would later be lost in the later movies. The action is a bit you can't really tell who's fighting who, but it's still comprehensible a bit. So yeah. And number 4 is Transformers Prime: Beast Hunters Predacons Rising. This is the finale to the series Transformers Prime. Transformers Prime was a cartoon that aired from 2010 to 2013. The show ended due to the fact that they were having so many issues behind the scenes. The show had to be cut off at 13 episodes for season 3. The series would have likely continued for the 20-something episodes that the last 2 seasons had, but they had to cut off due to the many issues they had behind the scenes. And so when they canceled it and finished it. They were going to plan to bring in the Maximals because they had already introduced the Predicons. The Maximals were planned for season 4. Season 3 would extend it to 2014, and season 4 would have come out after that. So yeah, sadly that never happened, and we got the sequel, Transformers: Robots Under Skies, which was alright, a bit garbage, but alright to watch in my opinion. And yeah, this was the finale to it, and it was an amazing movie. They gave the reason for Prime to die. They didn't give it a random reason that he was killed in the middle of a forest. No offense, I still love that fight. I still abide by how much of a masterpiece that battle scene is. But yeah, they give him a reason to die. He passes away. A lot of things happen in this movie. This is a finale, and it ties up a lot of nice plot holes and plot lines in the universe. But I wish there was some that were answered that unfortunately never got answered. Robots in Disguise does answer one of them, but it's a bit of a poor answer. But yeah, I've watched this movie twice, 4 times, twice, and it was amazing. I did it twice on a marathon of Transformers. It was an amazing time. I enjoyed it both times, and it was an overall fun series to watch. I loved it. But yeah, this movie's alright. It's not alright. It's the best. It's awesome. I love it, and yeah, it's fun. It's comprehensible. Love the action. And the animation is the most pristine it's ever been since the pilot episodes were airing back in 2010. It's the most pristine. And it goes down in history as one of the best finales to a TV show that doesn't leave too many plot holes for you. Overall, in my opinion, I love it, and it's fun because we finally get to focus on the Transformers more. It's now a Transformers-bound story. Only about 3 of the scenes take place on Earth. 3 or 4, at least 4 amount of scenes take place on Earth. But nonetheless, yeah. It's a great movie, and it's an amazing finale to an amazing series. So, yeah. And number 3 is Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Now, this movie, it's an upgrade from the last 2, except for the first one. This movie gives you more bang for your buck, in my opinion. It's a really good action blockbuster. He can give you a great blockbuster. It gives you great blockbuster. It gives you an amazing set of action scenes. The CGI all holds up today. The action scenes, everything about the CGI all holds up to this day. And if you're seen in 3D, you may not know that the people who worked on Avatar, Michael Bay got them to help make the 3D for this movie. Yeah. The action's great, and this is where it starts to go down a bit, because now we go transitioning from a bunch of metal slamming into one another to something that I find a tiny bit worse, low camera angle shots, because now they lower the angle of the shots and I can't tell what's happening. And it leads to action scenes that make me not know what... this is where it started to make it feel less noticeable to tell what was going on. Because the 4th movie, the one that comes after this, it makes them look like Godzilla monsters. And there's a bunch of stuff falling from the freaking sky. So I don't know who's who. And people keep lifting and slamming onto the ground, so... And the 5th movie, well, that just has garbage, aspect ratio changing, piece of junk garbage, incomprehensible, off-shooting camera angles. Because not only with the 5th movie, they were shooting off their guns into nowhere. The camera kept changing aspect ratios. He wouldn't pick one to stay with, and it made it incomprehensible to tell who was fighting who. With the 5th movie, Transformers: The Last Night had incomprehensible fighting, with them firing off into nowhere. Transformers 4 had Godzilla-style kind of fighting that made no sense. Dark of the Moon made low camera angle fighting that made it hard for me to watch. And the big reason why I can't watch this one is Carly. Carly is my least favorite character of all these characters. She is a very good looking character, but yeah, she's hollow. It's a hollow in my opinion. She's a bit of a hollow character. She's a replacement for Michaela because Megan Fox compared Michael Bay to Hitler and was fired. She was set to star in the third film, and I believe she did shoot some scenes because there are now leaked photos of her in a dress, in a office star kind of dress, no, like a dress that she was going to an office or something, and high heels on and all that, and next to the Bumblebee car from Dark of the Moon. So she was obviously shooting the scenes with Dylan Gold or some other scenes. But overall, yeah, it was that. Yeah, the movie was alright, and I didn't mind it. It was a pretty good movie, and yeah. So the action is amazing, and yeah, I think this is the best acting Shia LaBeouf gave out of all three movies, and yeah, the writer really he made it so that those who stuck through the first two films really got a satisfying ending, because this movie was going to be the final film, which is why some characters are killed off, like Megatron, Starscream, all the big guns were killed off. And Shockwave was sadly an underused character for a guy who was spent so much in promotional pictures. He was barely even in the movie. But overall, it was an awesome movie, and I loved it. The action's amazing, and it's just an amazing film to watch. And it was awesome, and I wish that we got a better fourth film. Either that, or we get a rewrite of the film. We get an alternate cut of the film where they try and cover up all the plot holes that the films have made, and answer the question that the comics aren't canon. And yes, if you'd like to see one, I will be doing a rewrite of the fourth film to tie up all the stuff, and maybe even the fifth film. So yeah. But this movie's great. I only can't watch it as much as the other ones due to Carly replacing Michaela, and yeah. And a lot of the times in the story, yeah, there was just parts in the story where I didn't believe that why Sam was motivated. It was very hard for me to believe that, connect to that, because Michaela left. And they totally took a dump on their relationship, saying Michaela didn't like Sam for who he was. Thought Sam, yeah, just really didn't like it. And I think, yeah, it was very unfair to Michaela's character as a whole, and I feel like it was a bit too harsh on the character. But yeah, now we move on to the next entry, and number 2 is Bumblebee. This movie is a nice reboot for the series, and it really puts it back to basics after so many movies it took it convoluted. The first film was decently well done. The second movie, convoluted but could still understand it. The third movie, it was starting to stretch into very hard to tell story areas, but then the fourth film just pushed it right into the lands of very hard to tell and very hard to make up a timeline. The fifth film just effed it up even more. This film reset everything and just gave us a nice reset. It's sad to see it rebooted, and it's a bit sad in my opinion since I love the first 3 movies, and I hate the fourth one and don't mind the fifth one. But yeah, and after this movie, we have now gained another one, and yeah, and I hope the fifth film is, and I hope Bumblebee sequel, the Transformers Rise of the Beast, will be a good movie. I'm very sad that the Bayverse was over, but it was good while it lasted, in my opinion, for some of the people who liked it. But Bumblebee was a really great movie. I liked Haley Steinfeld as Charlie Watson. She was a very much more interesting character. She would never beat Sam Witwicky, who was my favorite character in the Transformers movie. In anything Transformers, Sam Witwicky was my favorite. But Bumblebee was really well done. They were really looking for a G1 aesthetic. Travis Knight really wanted to give us a G1 aesthetic, trying to really please the G1 fans. But he knew he couldn't please the Michael Bay fans. But he tried to do some fan service to the Michael Bay movies, like taking away Bumblebee's voice box, giving him his camera mode. Obviously, this was supposed to be a intended prequel to the 5 films that came after it, which would have been cool to see, but yeah, the producer Lorenzo Dubianchira said by the time the 4th film came out, told the director and producer Lorenzo Dubianchira said to the writers to ignore continuity from now on and to just write whatever you want and not give a damn about continuity, and that basically just made the story convoluted. Seeing the reboot is happy. I'm sad, but overall, bittersweet. I love the first 2 movies, hate the 4th one, and the 5th one. It will be sad that we don't get to see the continuation of the Unicron plotline that I was kind of itching to see in live action. I was itching to see that in live action, actually. And I would like for the next film after Transformers Rise of the Beast to be set in either the 2000s or the modern day. But I like it if each movie takes place in each decade. The first film takes place in the 80s, the second film takes place in the 90s, and the next film takes place in the 2000s. And I would like it if Transformers: Rise of the Beasts include and takes ideas and concepts from the original from the 5 movies of the Transformers of the Michael Bay movies, to take the good ideas from the 5 Michael Bay movies and employ it into the new movies, which would be cool. Overall, Bumblebee is a good movie. I love it, and I can enjoy it. You can have a good time with this. You can have a bunch of laughs that are actually funny. No offense to the Robo Peanut Human, which I find a tiny bit funny actually. The Transformers have personalities. The action is the best. The only other movie that's good enough to it, but second place, is Transformers 2007. But yeah, it's better action. It's not action that makes us that it looks like a bunch of metal slamming into one another, like low angle camera shots, Godzilla falling out of the sky stuff, incomprehensible aspect ratio, blasting off into the distance kind of action scenes. It's action scenes that are comprehensible, that are fun and interesting to watch. They're comprehensible, they're awesome, they're thrilling, they're engaging, and they're action-packed. And they're not very hard to tell what's going on, and incomprehensible and stupid and really over the top. And they don't put too many explosions. You need an explosion, but not too many. The only time it actually worked for an explosion was the second movie and third movie. Well, looking for a story, in my opinion. But yeah, in this movie, we get a 10 out of 10. But now we have to get to number 1. But this movie's over a great for Bumblebee. 10 out of 10. Because, well, yes. And now we're at number 1. Now, now from a rating of 1 to 10. Bumblebee is 10 out of 10. This movie's amazing. I love it. It's an amazing movie. Transformers 5 The Last Night. I'll give that a 5 out of 10. Transformers Age of Extinction. I'll give that 4 out of 10. Transformers Dark of the Moon. 7 out of 10. It's good, but not that good as the other 2 that come before it, in my opinion. Or the 2 that come after it. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. 7 out of 10. No, Transformers... Okay, so Bumblebee is a 10 out of 10. Transformers Last Night, 5 out of 10. Age of Extinction, 4 out of 10. Dark of the Moon, 8 out of 10. Revenge of the Fallen, 7 out of 10. And Transformers Predicons Rising, 9 out of 10. Or 10 out of 10, whatever one I'm going to think about. So yeah. So, Rise of Predacons, 10 out of 10. Rise of Predacons, 10 out of 10. Bumblebee, 10 out of 10. Last Night, 5 out of 10. Age of Extinction, 4 out of 10. Dark of the Moon, 8 out of 10. Revenge of the Fallen, 7 out of 10. And now we get to Transformers 2007, which is 10 out of 10. I just love this movie too much. I can't give it a 9 or an 8. I can't. This movie got me on the Transformers and set me on the path to love the franchise. Now, this movie bonded hundreds of fans. That's one thing you gotta give it credit. And even though a lot of people hate on this movie, it's got 82% score on the audience score for Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, pretty good. And they got 50-something% score for the first movie on the tomato meter. This movie came out the year I was born. That's why it has such an importance to me. It came out when I was born. That really struck a chord with me. It was really amazing. It came out June, so yeah. My mom, I know the story of how my mom got it. I know it back to front. Not off my heart. It's a great movie. I love the movie, and it started a franchise that was controversial at least, and a lot of people are happy it's over. But this first one, whilst it's a bit offensive and juvenile humor, it's not as guilty of the big massive explosions that the 4 movies that come after it is guilty of. They're not guilty of a lot of things that the other 4 films get to start employing more, like the Megan Fox. While she's a sex object, she's less of one in this movie and more of a better character in this movie, and yeah. But yeah, in Sam Witwicky, this is his second best role. The Revenge of the Fallen is overall his worst role in the franchise. He tries too hard to get a laugh out of you, and he's just trying to force it on you. Transformers 1 is the second best role he's done. He's done a bit too much shouting and screaming, but he feels like me. He reminds me of an exaggerated version of me. As a teenage, exaggerated version of me, shoved into a horny, American, Michael Bay-ish version of me. Yeah, he reminds a lot of me. And it's like, and Transformers 1 really delivers on the idea of what if a person was in Transformers, and imagine a kid imagining themselves in Transformers. That's what I used to always think about when I was a kid. What if I was what if Optimus Prime was holding on to me, with me holding the cube, and he crashed down into a bunch of buildings, and him and Megatron were beating each other up around me, or Bumblebee and Barricade. And that's what got me into Transformers, and Bumblebee, and a bunch of other stuff. Michael Bay, yes, he brought a lot of terrible things into the franchise. He made it get known with a lot of bad things, like very, very violent version. This left a lot of big marks on a lot of people who think of Transformers. When you think of Transformers, you don't think of transforming robots. You think of this. You think of hot babes. You think of big, massive explosions. You think of juvenile humor. You think of convoluted story. You think of racist or offensive jokes and very bad acting. And yeah, that's all people can think of it. Which is sadly the truth about these movies. This is really all you can think about Transformers. That and Optimus being a bit of a murderer. This first movie, even though he only murders one Autobot, he similarly keeps to some of his more heroic, normal Optimus deeds, although he's a bit personalityless. The second movie does start as rampaging, killing machine thing. And the third movie extends extends it a bit, and then the fourth extends it to an amount to 10, and then the fourth movie extends that to 50, and then the fifth one extends that to Kingdom Come, and just extends that far enough, very far into the distance. But yeah, overall, it's my favorite out of the franchise, and I love this one. So yeah. And overall, tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Did you love these? Did you like this list? What did you think? What was your favorite Transformer movie? Tell me how you would rank these movies in your opinion. And yeah, just let's start a little chat in the comments below. And you don't have to like it. And let's be friendly, guys. I don't want us to start arguments or anything. Okay? It's better not to do that. You can either get trolled or get annoyed by that said commenter for the rest of your life. Okay? So yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell, whatever the hell that damn thing is, for all Movie Master content. And yeah, click it on whatever version you own. So yeah. But yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss any Movie Master content. And I'll see y'all later. Toodles.